February 7th was the last day we had real NFL football, but great news, ladies and gentlemen. It is back. We have the Bills and Rams playing today. Can't wait to watch the game. And of course, this means we have a real fantasy football action underway. So I want to go through and I want to look at every player we need to be selling if you drafted before week one kicks off. We even have a player playing on Thursday, so I'll probably look like an idiot in this video. But before we get into it, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure 99% of y'all are already subscribed and watched our 24-hour live stream. You can kind of tell that our voice hasn't recovered from that 24-hour live stream yet. But that should be it. Oh, one last thing. You are going to see some player props up in the corner of the screen as we go through and talk about these players for week one. Those, of course, can be found on Underdog Fantasy. You'll have seen us drafting there every single night and on Underdog Fantasy. We will still be drafting there during the season, also checking out some player props. And if you want to go have access to those, make sure you sign up for Underdog. Use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free for you to try out. And you get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and 2022 fantasy football draft guide, which will help you even if you've already had your draft. But let's go through, let's dive into these players. Our first guy who I have really not drafted at all over the past 2-3 months, Allen Lazard. So here with Allen Lazard, I understand everybody's saying, well, Mason, it's easy for you to tell us to trade him if you don't have. Yes, that does make some sense here. But the reason that I haven't gone all in on Allen Lazard is while I agree, on paper, he is the wide receiver one for Aaron Rodgers. And if we go back and look historically, whether that's Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Davonte Adams, I mean, there's so many different guys he has made a wide receiver one in fantasy before. So while Allen Lazard is set up on paper to be in the best situation you could ever imagine as the wide receiver one for Aaron Rodgers, I don't necessarily think that wide receiver one role is guaranteed as most people do, because we're looking at Allen Lazard right now, not at practice. He got stepped on at practice about a week ago. And this is giving an opportunity for these rookies, Romeo Doubs, for Christian Watson, to develop a rapport with Aaron Rodgers. You also have Sammy Watkins here. We can also assume that the running backs, I would say, I mean, if we combine A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones' overall workload across the entire NFL, maybe Green Bay is going to be a top 3 offense with overall touches to the running back position. I don't think that it's guaranteed that Allen Lazard is the wide receiver one here, because if we go back and look at his entire NFL career, this is an undrafted free agent, initially went to Jacksonville, then got cut, had to move over to Green Bay. And if he moved to Green Bay and then all of a sudden he was hyper efficient, he was Gabriel Davis, where every time he had an opportunity, even if there was a receiver in front of him, he came out and he balled out. If that was the case, then yes, I would say, okay, Allen Lazard is going to be a massive success. He's going to exceed everyone's expectations. However, we haven't seen Allen Lazard go out there and be hyper efficient. We haven't seen Allen Lazard, even in games where Davonte Adams has missed, come out and get 25% of his team's target share. So while it's a possibility that Allen Lazard does finally elevate his play, it's purely a projection. That's all it is. It's not a guarantee. And if I'm going to be rolling the dice, I would rather roll the dice on Romeo Doubs. I'd rather roll the dice on Christian Watson when they're in the last round of your fantasy football draft or on the waiver wire. Whereas if we pull up Underdog and see where Allen Lazard's been drafted all offseason, he's going ahead of quarterbacks that could be top 3 guys like Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, going before someone like Deandre Hopkins, who we know will be a dominant wide receiver when he comes back from a suspension. So I think if we can go through right now, sell Allen Lazard for DeAndre Hopkins. That makes so much sense. Go sell him for Trey Lance. I mean, hell, even some running backs that are going behind him like Josh Jacobs, I may even prefer. Now let's go ahead and let's move to our next wide receiver. Someone that is also in an elite level offense, playing alongside an elite level quarterback. We are going to have Mike Williams. Mike Williams, right now on Underdog, being drafted as the wide receiver 13, directly ahead of guys like Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, neck and neck with Josh Allen. And I understand with Mike Williams, yes, this is a wide receiver that you probably bump up in a best ball format. You probably bump him up in half PPR as well. But at the end of the day, we have seen a 5-game stretch of Mike Williams being a dominant Alpha X wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers, and that was at the beginning of last season. He demonstrated the ability to break fantasy football. He's the wide receiver 2, only behind Cooper Kupp. But outside of that 5-game stretch, Since 2017, Mike Williams has operated as the field-stretching wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's had an incredibly high average depth of target, and what he is doing in this offense is he is creating space underneath for the Chargers to be fantastic. Like from a real-life perspective, he is providing so much value when he's creating this separation for Keenan Allen, for Austin Eckler to go up against light boxes. However, from a fantasy football standpoint, that field-stretching wide receiver role is not going to transfer over to a ton of targets, to a ton of PPR fantasy points. So I'm worried that he is the deep threat here in Los Angeles. I would much prefer taking a bet on the guy that should be drawing the targets underneath, someone like Keenan Allen. I would love to go through, and trust me, I get it. He has a crazy ceiling. I would rather take the security with someone like Keenan in this same offense. And now let's go over and look at our next wide receiver, someone that I think is the perfect example of security, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that he's going to help out your team that much. Brandon Cooks. Now, whenever we loaded up our top 30 wide receiver rankings video, I know everybody was so mad at me in the comment section, telling me we were way too low on Brandon Cooks, way too low on Brandon Cooks. And I truly do appreciate your comments. Like every single video, including this video, I'm going to answer as many of your comments as I possibly can, at least the first 200. I promise you I'm down there reading them. However, with Brandon Cooks here, while I agree, he is a very safe wide receiver. I am trying to short this Houston Texans offense where I can. I still stand by the fact that I think here in Houston, you have a severely capped ceiling. Las Vegas has this as the worst team in the NFL. We see it week 1 when the Indianapolis Colts have the largest spread of any game over the Houston Texans. I think this is a very bad offense. And from a roster construction standpoint, we are going to look at guys like Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore in casual redraft leagues going like 3-4 rounds after Brandon Cooks, where in my opinion, the points per game difference you're going to get with those wide receivers, maybe one point per game, where that's not going to have an impact on your season whatsoever. Whereas if we go look at underdog ADP right now, you're looking at Brandon Cooks going before George Kittle, going before Darren Waller, going before these elite level tight ends that I would easily move off Brandon Cooks for. Now let's go over to our next running back, and this is going to be Damien Harris. Now here with Damien Harris, I understand, yes, another player that probably has a relatively high floor. I mean, we know Damien Harris is going to have a large workload in New England because this team wants to run the ball over and over and over again. And if Damien Harris can score a touchdown a game, just like he did last year, then yeah, he maybe is going to be a top 24 running back on a per game basis. But I would argue that that is his ceiling. Because he's not getting you anything as a pass catcher, his ceiling is going to be him going out there, scoring a touchdown per game, and being the running back 17. Whereas if we're looking at other players in this same range, according to Fantasy Pros in casual leagues, he's being drafted back-to-back with Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds, who's going to catch a crap ton of receptions out of the backfield, that also may just be the flat-out starter here in Miami, where all of a sudden that role is very, very productive. Whereas if we're looking at Harris, as we said, when you're coming away with 1 to 0 receptions per game, like Thomas, can you please throw up the game log here, highlight the little receptions column for Damien Harris? Your ceiling's going to be severely capped. I would even prefer Ramondre Stevenson after him. With Stevenson, he can catch the ball, or Tony Pollard is the perfect example. Because with Pollard, if we compare him and Damien Harris, while Damien Harris probably has a higher floor, he has a higher median projection, Tony Pollard, if we look at his entire range of outcomes, could straight up smash in fantasy this year, be a true league winner, where I don't think Damien Harris has that in the range of outcomes. Not to mention that in a PPR format, where Tony Pollard may have to be used as a slot wide receiver early on for Dallas, whenever you don't have Gallup, you don't have James Washington, they lost Amari, they lost Cedric Wilson. I think that here it makes a lot of sense to move off Damien Harris for a different running back in this range. Now, our next running back is going to be someone else that I think probably has a high median projection. He looks like he is also the starting running back in a great offense, Devin Singletary. Now, my issue with Devin Singletary is we're looking at him being drafted 2 running back spots behind A.J. Dillon, 1 running back spot behind Dameon Pierce, and ahead of guys like Cordell Patterson and Miles Sanders, according to Fantasy Pros. Now here, if I'm trying to make a move with Devin Singletary, I just want to go get a running back that we think has a higher ceiling. Go sell Devin Singletary as the running back 28. Go get Miles Sanders, because if we're looking at Devin Singletary, yes, maybe he comes away with 10, 11, 12 carries per game in Buffalo, but he was one of, if not the worst receiving running back in the NFL last year, according to PFF, when they set the threshold for enough receptions. And on top of this, if we were looking at what the Buffalo Bills did, I mean, they're telling us they don't want him on the field in passing downs. They go try to sign J.D. McKissic at free agency. When that doesn't work out, they then reach on James Cook to take him in the second round. So this is another running back that's not going to catch the ball out of the backfield. And if you're not going to catch the ball out of the backfield, maybe that's fine if you can have some touchdown upside. But Josh Allen's going to vulture these touchdowns at the goal line. James Cook's going to expand his role as the season goes on. So maybe after Thursday, I look like an idiot with this Devin Singletary call, but I think the ceiling's going to be severely capped. I mean, even if he has a strong performance on Thursday night, outside of a James Cook injury, I'm still going to look to go ahead and sell Devin Singletary. Now let's go down to our next player here. Another running back. I know we listed off a lot of these running backs in a row, and this running back, I'm sorry, I deceived you a little bit with the title here. This title is sell these players before week one. This guy you're not selling before week one. Okay. I think that we actually wait until Monday night. I think we let him have a strong week one performance against the Denver Broncos, assuming that Kenneth Walker misses. Here with Rashad Penny, he is going to be the starting running back for a run-heavy offense at the beginning portion of the year. We know that Seattle is not looking to throw the ball with Geno Smith. I don't know if they're going to have any other option when they're down by multiple touchdowns, but still. With Rashad Penny, he is going to be getting to 20 carries at the beginning portion of the season. But if we're looking long-term, I'm worried about a couple different things. I'm worried about the offensive line. I'm worried about the quarterback play. I'm worried about this potentially being the worst offense in the NFL. And on top of this, we are looking at that injury history. With Rashad Penny, he was an elite running back prospect coming out of San Diego State. I was betting on Rashad Penny and losing money every single year because of his talent profile. I was telling everyone, no, guys, I understand he was hurt last year. I understand he was hurt the year before that. I understand he was hurt the year before that. But here with Rashad Penny, trust me, he's a great talent. We want to be buying the dip. And then we were just losing our money year in and year out because Rashad Penny can't stay healthy. We were never wrong about him being an extremely talented running back. He's a superb player. But he started 6 games in his NFL career. And the reason for this has never been that, oh dear God, Chris Carson was a god. No. The reason for this was Rashad Penny just simply can't stay healthy. And on top of this, Seattle knows this. So they go ahead and they invest into Kenneth Walker in the second round of this year's NFL draft. So when Kenneth Walker comes back, he is going to slowly but surely take more and more of this running back backfield. And do we want a committee running back not catching passes for one of the worst offenses in the NFL? That is also possibly injury prone. No, we don't. So don't sell Penny before week one. Let's hopefully get a good week out of him. Hopefully get a good 2 weeks if Kenneth Walker's not making it back in. And then sell him before Kenneth Walker comes back from this hernia surgery. Now, our next player is actually going to be over there at quarterback. We're going to look to sell back-to-back league MVP Aaron Rodgers. I get it. Unbelievable player. Back-to-back league MVP. You can argue that he's the best player in the NFL. The issue is, from a fantasy football standpoint, it simply may not matter. Because if the Green Bay Packers look to be a run-heavy offense here, what is the upside for Aaron Rodgers? We know that 2022 is a completely different landscape than what you had in 2015. Back in 2015, you had quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Drew Brees, where you could draft them early, and if there was a ton of passing volume, if they were efficient with passing touchdowns, sure, it worked out. Or you had those rushing quarterbacks like a Tyrod Taylor that were going to get you 30, 40 rushing yards a game, but they couldn't throw the ball for 200 yards, so you played them based on the matchup. In today's NFL, we have these two prototypes coming together. We have quarterbacks that can regularly throw the ball for over 300 yards and pick up 30 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown at the same time. So when Rodgers can't do that, he is still an unbelievable real-life player, but the issue is his ceiling is going to be severely capped for fantasy football leagues with 4-point passing touchdowns. I think that, honestly, fantasy football scoring is broken at the quarterback position. I think what we should look to do is we should look to change all our leagues to leagues where you get 6 points per passing touchdown, where then those pocket passing options, guys like Rodgers, Stafford, Cousins, if they have great seasons, we can take advantage of it. But in 4-point passing touchdown leagues, rushing upside matters way too much. Now, our last player here is going to be a wide receiver, someone that won leagues last year, legitimately won leagues. I know he's a fan favorite, but Hunter Rinfrow. With Hunter Rinfrow, these are the players that he's valued next to on Fantasy Pros. Juju Smith-Schuster, another slot wide receiver, but instead of playing with Derek Carr, he has Patrick Mahomes. Instead of going up against Davonte Adams and Darren Waller, he's going up against Sky Moore and Travis Kelce. And then we have DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, we don't need to talk about Hopkins here. Michael Thomas, a wide receiver that's holding NFL records. Elijah Moore, someone with a ton of upside to improve in year 2. Same thing, Rashad Bateman. And then Devontae Smith, 37. With Hunter Rinfrow, if Davonte Adams was not in town, if Darren Waller was hurt, hell yes. We're smashing this price, and I'm ecstatic about it. But the emergence of Hunter Rinfrow last year may not necessarily be because Hunter Rinfrow is some elite talent. Maybe it's that Henry Ruggs went to prison. Darren Waller got injured. So they were down to a combined Zay Jones, Brian Edwards, or Hunter Rinfrow. Who are you throwing the ball to in that instance? You're getting the ball to your slot wide receiver there with Rinfrow. So I think with Davonte Adams coming in, Davonte Adams historically takes close to a 29% team target share. That's going to come down. He's not getting 29% in Las Vegas. That probably comes down closer to about 25. Still, it's going to severely cap Hunter Rinfrow's upside because these slot wide receivers, they need volume. And we know Davonte Adams is a target hog. Darren Waller's hopefully going to stay healthy this season, which I think just completely destroys the upside for Rinfrow. But that's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go down there, drop a like. And as I always say, we are answering the first 200 comments on this video, or at least 200. We're going to try to do more than that. So just go down there, leave any questions you have in the comment section. If you want to tell me how stupid I am, hell, I'll read it. I will respond to you as well. That's all I got for you. I hope you have a great day, and I hope we get to see you with the live stream tonight.